and welcome to Ram Chat. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Don't forget, we have gotten questions all throughout this past week or so, but you can also submit questions by commenting on the video below or by going to Twitter and hashtagging RamChat. So I'll just go through and let's do some introductions. My name is Becca Timmons. I am now a third-year veterinary student and looking to either do small animal or mixed practice. Who knows, maybe research. We'll find out. And why don't we introduce you, Ed?
Hey guys, my name's Edward, and I am going into my second year here at Colorado State University. Possibly interested in small animal right now, but who knows, that can change anytime. And I'm interested in going into clinics or research or industry.
All right. Dr. Webb, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
It's not Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Dr. Craig Webb. I'm with the small animal medicine faculty here at the Veterinary Teaching Hospital. So I'm the guy who has to work with folks like Becca and Ed and try to help them figure out what they're doing. And that's always fun and a little challenging. But I work exclusively on cats and dogs and little critters like that, mostly looking at their poop. So if you got any poop questions, please send them on in.
All right, Janet Janke.
Hi there, I'm Janet. I've been working in admissions at about 10 years, and I can help with questions about the application, the deadlines, all the application materials. Coming to visit our campus, we love to set up tours and advising appointments if you're interested to come and meet some of our faculty. We also have some hosted visit days you might be interested in, and that's about it.
Thanks, everyone. I also would like to mention that Dr. Webb also works with hairballs, so there is that as well. But let's open the floor to some questions. And our first question, let's see. Ed, I think this would be a good one for you. Do you get to work with animals during your first few years or before senior year rotation?
Yes, we do as first years. In these courses called Foundation of Veterinary Medicine, we do learn how to give physical exams to dogs and cats. We learn basic handling skills of dogs and cats, and that's about it for the first year that I can remember. But throughout the years, second and third year, we also get a lot of hands-on experience with our education, and then fourth year is purely clinical and all hands-on. And actually, half of third year is also clinical, if that's correct, Becca.
Yeah, I'd also like to follow up and say that we also have these labs called wet labs, and that's another way to get involved. It's through your clubs. We have tons of clubs here at in our vet program, and another way to get involved and get your hands on and work with animals before your senior rotation. Plenty of ways to get involved. They always welcome you at the VTH, which is great, even though our first couple years are on main campus. Let's try another question. Janet, I think this will be directed toward you. What should I work on first for my application?
This is a great question. What I suggest for this is finding out who your evaluators will be for your letters of reference, because sometimes that can be the biggest holdup in getting your materials submitted by the deadline for your application. So that's where I would start, is finding out, talking to your professors, your veterinarians, and finding out if they want to do an evaluation for you and see if that timeline will work for them.
All right. Thank you, Janet. Another question, this will be for me and Edward. If you could do anything to better yourself for veterinary school, what would you have done? Ed, have any advice?
I'd say to get more animal experience, either veterinary or research or animal experience. All of that can help you become a better veterinarian and a better student. Practicing those hands-on skills always helps. So, and yeah, I don't know if you had anything to add to that, Becca.
No, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there, Ed. But I would definitely say if you haven't worked in a clinic, I got a lot of my animal experience through research, and I am glad that I did get some clinic hours before going to veterinary school, because it is just a totally different setting. Even if you are someone who is from a farm or hasn't necessarily been in a clinic, I do recommend to go and get some clinic hours before you, so that way you can actually see what it's like, I guess. All right, Webb, it looks like we got a question for you. Do professors offer research internships or volunteer work to undergraduate students who are interested in veterinary school? Doesn't sound very familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just a ton of research going on over at the vet hospital and on main campus with the professors who teach first and second years. Huge spectrum of opportunities and subject matter, and we are always looking for enthusiastic undergrads and vet students themselves to help out with research projects at all different levels. So just decide what you're interested in, and we'll find a niche for you to help out for sure.
Full disclosure, I also do research with Dr. Webb and started in my undergrad. And there are plenty of ways to get involved, talking to your advisors at your in your college, and they can always email people who are at the veterinary school and send out a resume or try to help you get involved. So definitely use your faculty and advisors that you have at hand, and they'll help you network.
Yeah, and I have something to add to that actually. I'm doing research this summer, and the way that I got into it was I just talked to one of the guest lecturers who came to give us one lecture last year during my first year, and I asked her if I could volunteer, and she said, yes, we'd love to have you come on board. And then after that, I just asked her if she would like to mentor me and do this summer research program, and that's how I got into research. And yeah, and it's pretty easy like that, as long as you're willing to try and look for clinicians and just ask.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. All right, our next one I believe will be directed towards you, Janet. The question is, if I am not accepted into the vet school on my first attempt, is there a way to get feedback from the admission committee on my application?
Yes, there is. We have a document that we send along to applicants. We call it a self-guided file review, and it's something you can do, read through by each category and find out where your strengths and weaknesses were in each category, and that helps you, I think, identify where you need to improve your application. We also have a video on our website that will give you tips on building a stronger application, and sometimes we also offer appointments with faculty for reviews of prior applications.
Thank you, Janet. All right, we have another student question. So Ed, this will be for you. How much time does a typical veterinary student spend studying outside of classes?
It honestly depends on every individual student, what kind of student you are and how you study and where you study, how much you need to study. There's a lot of variability between all the students. For example, for me, I mean, each semester here we take about 22, 23 credits on average. Then those are semester credits, and I would say I'd study maybe 40 hours a week, maybe 50, depending on if there are tests and other stuff going on at the same time too. What do you think about that, Becca?
Well, I definitely think it is person dependent. I know people that will stay up till 1 a.m. studying every night, and if they're not trying to study for a test, then during that time they're trying to make sure they're caught up in all their classes. I would say that I don't do that. I usually go to bed at 10 because I like my sleep. But I would say I'd put, if it's an easy week, maybe an hour a night. Some nights I don't study at all. I always try to make sure I have 1 or 2 nights off a week. I feel like there's definitely needs to be a work-life balance type thing. And but again, it definitely is dependent on how you study and what makes you feel better on whether you need to keep ahead of all the classes or not. But I would say I typically study maybe 10 hours a week on a slow week, and then on busier weeks definitely way more, crack down.
Yeah, I'd probably take back my 40 to 50 hours. That's kind of a lie. I mean, I value my sleep.
Scaring them off.
Yeah, I value my sleep as well, and I try to go to bed pretty much by midnight every day. I think it works better for me to retain the material if I get a decent amount of sleep too. So yeah, maybe like 10 to 20 hours as well.
Oh yeah, it's definitely gotta be careful on getting burnt out or overstudying. But yeah. All right, let's see. Our next question will be directed towards Janet again. How many applications do you receive each year, and how many people are accepted?
We receive about 1,500, 1,800 applications each year. We have a class size of 138 spots. We just added 10 more spots for our new program with Alaska, but for everyone on the CSU campus, there's 138 spots. And we break those up based on residency pools, so Colorado, in-state students, WICHE students, and then non-sponsored students. We have 75 seats for Colorado students, and then we fill the rest with WICHE and non-sponsored.
Perfect. Thank you, Janet. And this one is actually going to be directed towards Webb. What is your best study advice to students? Oh, Webb? Are you there? Oh, Edward, why don't you try giving some input? There we go.
So my first piece of advice would be to study more than either Ed or Becca. But no, in all honesty, it's, as they said, it's very student dependent. It depends on how confident you are, how efficient you are, how well you retain stuff, and perhaps most importantly is, as again they both mentioned, maintaining a real solid work-life study balance is really important. We want you not only well educated but still sane and happy by the time you graduate veterinary school here.
Do you have anything to follow up, Ed?
Sorry, what was the question?
The best study advice you have.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, this kind of is similar to that other question. The best study habit is, I guess, try out multiple ways of studying and see which one works best for you. Every student studies differently, and different ways work for different people. You just got to spend some time to find out what is right for you. Hopefully, by the time you finish undergrad, you have a good sense of what works for you and what doesn't. I would just continue that and try to adapt to the bigger course load. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. I definitely think that it helps to know how you study, I guess, and what works for you. I know I tried to change my study habits during my first year, and I think that didn't end up helping me, and so I went back to how I studied in undergrad, and I think that definitely helped. But I do think it helps to be open to trying new study habits, because I know some people that rewrite all their notes before a test. And again, it kind of gets to a point where there's volume overload, and that can get really difficult. So they've had to adjust. All right, our next question is and this is for Janet, if my GRE scores are lower, what can I do to compensate for this to make me a stronger candidate?
That won't always work against you. What works well with our review is we use the holistic review. So if their application maybe has a weaker section like the GRE scores they feel aren't competitive, the committee will always look at the full application. They'll look at your academics, they'll look at your veterinary experience, your animal experience. They also like to see community activities. So they'll really look at the whole application and kind of weigh the different parts, and that's kind of how even some students who have maybe a rough start as a freshman in undergrad, don't get the best grades, they can improve their grades later on in their junior, senior years. And the committee loves to see upward trends. So if you were to take the GRE test again and do better, that would show an upward trend also.
Thank you, Janet. Webb, this one is directed towards you. What are some of the professor's research interests?
So, boy, again, you can name almost anything you can think of, and there's somebody doing some work in that. We're big in infectious diseases with Dr. Mike Lappin, and liver disease and GI disease with David Tweed and myself, and kidney disease and immune-mediated diseases. We have every specialty that a human hospital would have. If you're interested in eye disease or if you're interested in neurology, it covers the entire gamut. And as I said, CSU is very active in research. So just come with a passion and a question, and I bet you'll find somebody who's looking at the same thing you are, has the same sort of research interests.
Thank you, Ed. Yeah, I definitely agree. There's tons to do and tons to research. We have another question. This is for us students. Ed, why don't you answer first? What has been the hardest thing about veterinary school thus far?
Hardest thing probably so far is that learning how to deal with that transition between, let's say, undergrad or the work life or, graduate school, and then coming into vet school, which is like a way bigger course load and more stressful. And just that transition is probably the hardest for most people. Just learning how to deal with it and learning how to adapt to that new environment and the new life that you're going to have for the next 4 years. That would probably be the thing that comes to my mind first for that question.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I definitely think that both the course load and I think the hardest thing for me was kind of the speed that we go through material and how much material we cover. I know a lot of people compare it to drinking from a fire hydrant, just the amount of information we get thrown at us. But I think that was definitely first year. I feel like second year, you kind of build on that, on what you've learned. So it's still the same amount of volume, but it's almost trying to tie it all together. But it's definitely an adjustment, but I do think it's also doable. All right, let's go to another question. Janet, this one's for you. What can I do now as a high schooler to help me so I will stick out when I apply for the veterinary program?
I would try to think about what you enjoy doing, pick out a major that works with your goals and do well in it. It's the committee sometimes doesn't always focus on what school you went to or what your major was, but more importantly, the courses you took and how you did in them. So I would try to fit it with what you like and what your goals are and what you want to do.
Perfect. Thank you, Janet. I definitely know that there are a ton of people in at least my class that have totally different majors, anything from Spanish to literature to history. So it's definitely people don't just get in based on having a specific type of major.
Yeah, there are people in my class with like geophysics, engineering degrees, um, yeah, anything you can think of really, as long as you get your prereqs done.
Oh yeah, I feel like as long as you get the prereqs done, just do whatever you're passionate about, whatever you like, and it'll kind of tie together for sure. All right, we have a question for us students. So Ed, why don't you answer this first? What is your favorite class you've taken so far?
There are a lot of good classes that I like. Possibly right now, the most favorite one I've had is going to be anatomy. We've had a really awesome teacher, and it's a pretty big chunk of your first semester in terms of course load, but they do a really good job with giving you the basics of all the important functional anatomy, which will serve as a foundation for the rest of your 4 years. And neuroanatomy also was amazing. That was in the second semester of your first year. The professors and the staff here make it seem less like, you know, crazy hard material. So yeah, what about you, Becca?
Let's see, I like a lot of the classes. I loved all of the microbe classes, so bacteriology and virology and parasitology. I love learning about all the microbes. I was a microbiology major in undergrad, so I thought those were all fun. And then I loved everything about second year. I loved finally in ClinPath, you finally learn how to read blood work and what it means and why you see what you see, which is awesome. And trying to think. Also, clinical sciences was really cool, so I was learning about specific diseases. Surgery was really cool. I feel like there was another. Oh, I loved. It was an extracurricular called Emerging Infectious Disease. That was actually probably my favorite one. It's kind of run like a grad student class, and each week a different student presents on a hot topic and diseases, and then we discuss it for like 20 minutes. And every class, there's whoever's presenting is also supposed to bring a treat. So there's always food, and then you talk, and it's awesome. And I thought it was a lot of fun. And Dr. Pavlonia and Dr. Duncan ran it, and they're like best friends, and so it was always hilarious and awesome because they're awesome teachers too. So yeah, I think those were my favorite ones. All right, let's go to next question. Janet, this will be to you again. Do in-state students or CSU alumni get priority when applying?
That's a common myth, and the answer is no, they don't. Again, the committee is really going to look at your application in regard to academics, what you understand about the profession, what you might bring to the profession, the kind of experience you have, and they want to see that you'll do well in the program and that the veterinary profession is really what you want to get into.
Thank you, Janet. Yeah, that's interesting. I've heard that too. It's interesting. I wonder where that myth started from. All right, we got another question. This was a written-in question. Dr. Webb, I think this will be best answered by you. The question is, I'm in high school and I have emailed every veterinary clinic in my town to volunteer or intern, and none of them have agreed to work with me. Where do I go from here?
So I guess my first piece of advice would be to go up and go ahead and just show up in person. Emails can get lost and they can end up in a pile, but boy, face to face, it's hard for you to be ignored. And if you've got some passion about being there and you've got some personality, I bet you'll find a clinic that is welcoming those kind of traits. So leave the computer alone and go ahead and get face-to-face in these clinics and see if that doesn't help you land a spot.
Yeah, and I have something to add to that. I started looking for veterinary experience during the second year of my college curriculum or college life. I didn't always know I wanted to be a veterinarian, so once I figured that out in college, I started freaking out because I realized how I didn't have any veterinary experience. So then I did the same thing too. I called like almost every clinic around my college, and none of them really called me back. And so, but I kept at it, and I kept bugging everybody, and I was probably really, really annoying. But it worked because 4 months after the search started, one clinic called me back and was like, "Oh, we'd like to meet you, coming in, and then maybe you could start volunteering with us." And then that's how I started getting experience. And then so I volunteered for a year, and then I got hired on after that.
Oh, thanks, Ed and Webb. I'd also like to add, I know some of my friends, they said that they started out working for or volunteering for shelters or wildlife sanctuaries, just somewhere that worked with animals. And then, I mean, everyone, if you're working with animals, then there has to be a vet associated at some point. So just kind of starting to get involved that way. So that's always another route as well. All right, our next question. I think this could actually probably be answered by any of us. What is there to do for fun in Fort Collins? Ed, why don't you start?
That's my favorite question. I love Fort Collins. I'm from LA, and I went to undergrad in San Diego. So when I moved out here, I didn't think I would like Fort Collins as much. But actually, there's a lot of stuff you can do for fun outside of school. It's a great place. There's lots of outdoors life. Biking, hiking, running, camping. We have a Horsetooth Reservoir that's really close to us. So in the summer hot months, a lot of people go swimming and boating, fishing. There are lots of breweries for beer lovers out there like me. Those are really fun. And yeah, I won't take up all of those. There are way more other activities out there, so I'll let someone else answer those.
Webb, what would you say your favorite thing to do in Fort Collins is?
Well, I'd echo Ed's answer, actually, and there's just so much of it. And I'd point out that the faculty at the veterinary teaching hospital, the people that will be teaching you, take advantage of it as well. We have competitive cyclists, we have mountain climbers. One of our equine vets regularly finishes in the top 3 in the Ironman competition. We have phenomenal Boston Marathon runners. Those are the kind of people that are attracted to Fort Collins, not only as students, but as faculty. And once we get here, we don't leave because it's just a wonderful place to live.
Thanks, Webb. What about you, Janet? What's your favorite thing to do in Fort Collins?
I think the bike trails here are great. You can also use them for jogging and for walking. I also think Fort Collins is a very pet-friendly city, so you can take your dog to a lot of stores, as we do with our Golden Retriever. I also, it's not in Fort Collins, but down in Denver is the Red Rocks Amphitheater for concerts, and it's a great place. It's outdoors, and it's a formation of the natural red Colorado rocks here, so that's a great place to go to.
Oh yeah, I love the Red Rocks. Thanks, Janet. I'd have to say my favorite thing to do in Fort Collins would probably be as simple as taking my dog to either Douglas Reservoir or Dixon Reservoir or even Horsetooth and going on a walk or letting her play in the water. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, and also I'd like to add, the snowboarding here is amazing. There are tons of resorts out here. It's only like the fastest I've gone there was like 2.5 hours. At most, it's maybe like 3.5 hours, so it's really not that bad. And yeah, no, that's like one of the main things that attracted me to Fort Collins.
Thanks, Ed. All right, the next question would be, I think this will be a good one for Janet. Besides pre-vet, what other majors would you recommend that would prepare me for vet school while providing an alternative career path? in case I am not accepted for admissions on my first attempt?
Well, I guess I would have to say anything science-oriented would be better. Although we do have a lot of people with English majors and non-science majors that are able to turn that around and apply for vet school. They may go and do a master's program in a science program. But again, there's not one major that's going to be better. Anything in science, again, is going to better prepare you. Anything that will give you courses in upper division biomedical sciences will really help you out.
Thanks for that, Janet. This next question I think will best be answered by Webb. So the question is, I know the DVM program has a high percentage of hands-on learning. Can you give some examples?
Hey, sorry, Becca, my little button is not buttoning all that well, but
That's all right, Webb.
and can you repeat the question?
Yes, it's worded, I think I read it wrong. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I know the DVM program has a lot of hands-on learning. Can you give some examples of that?
Oh, sure. So as both Ed and Becca mentioned, in your third and fourth years, you spend an awful lot of time on the clinic floor, and in most rotations, you are the first doctor in the room with the client and the pet. It's all you, and it's all you and your hands on the pet, and you're talking to the client. So that's really the foundation of your education before we send you out in the real world. But again, also as Becca mentioned, in addition to that, there are all sorts of other opportunities, and CSU has a tremendous number of clubs and outreach programs and working with shelters and spay-neuters, and we send students down to Mexico, and the world of opportunities for you to get physically and mentally and intellectually involved in the care for animals of all sorts of different kinds in all sorts of different environments. So hands-on opportunities all over the place. You just ask some upperclassmen, ask your friends, ask some faculty, and they'll point you in the right direction.
Thanks, Webb. So our next question is one for us students. How is the student environment, and do students hang out together? Ed, why don't you hit that one?
Yeah, I can say this for my class. I think my class has a really good environment for learning. A lot of the students are friends with everyone else. We often group together and study that way, help out each other out. Let's say in anatomy, you know. Honestly, in everything, most of the students cooperate and study in a group. If that's how you study, then that's great. Some people don't like to do that, and that's totally fine too. But I feel like my class has generally a really good, supportive atmosphere. We all are learning the same thing. We're all in the same classes for 6-7 hours a day, so it's really nice that we can relate to each other and depend on each other in that sense, and all get through vet school in one piece.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I'd like to add to that. I know I've been on a few panels as part of, I'm a DVM ambassador as well, and I know we get a lot of questions about the competition in vet school and if it's as competitive as an undergrad for those who are applying to vet school. And I definitely think that once you get to vet school, everyone just kind of becomes a family. I think a large part of that is due to our orientation and that we're kind of forced to be together for a whole week, and we get to do all these fun but corny but awesome activities at our mountain campus and get a bond hardcore before entering kind of the scary world that is vet school. It is overwhelming and intimidating the first few weeks, but everyone kind of comes together, shares study guides like what Ed says. I know we had this crazy rainstorm during my first year, and some girls in my class, her basement flooded, and we had a test like the next week, and she lost all of her notes. Her computer was full of water, and so she couldn't get anything from it and couldn't recover anything. And that night, we a ton of people just sent her notes, emailed her stuff, shared Google Drives. But it's definitely a supportive environment. And also to add, we have the Crete book. Basically, it's you can write down all these things that you're involved in or like to do, whether you like to fish or ski or golf or whatever. So if you ever want to try something new or do something with a group of people, you can go to the Crete book and then look and see what other people like to do and find them and then go up to them and be like, hey, I saw you like golfing. Do you want to go golfing with me? Or so that's another way people kind of hang out together. And also we have our Facebook page with each group, each class, so we can contact each other that way.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that. I have a classmate who was pregnant through most of the first year, and then she gave birth, and along the way, everybody was really supportive of her. We gave her all of our study materials, and she passed all the first year. So again, it's a very awesome learning environment. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and the great thing too is a lot of people in your class, they'll be like experts in something. Like I know there's a lot of people in our class that have their master's or PhD in certain subjects. So like I was very bad at anatomy. I stank at it. Wasn't very good. Didn't know anything. Thought everything sounded like I was being cursed with Harry Potter. You know, it was like Sartorius or something. So I was like, I don't know what's happening. But I was really good at immunology, and so I paired up with a few people, and I helped them in immunology because I had my microbiology background, and I had seen immunology a million times, and they helped me out with anatomy. So yeah, there's definitely ways to if you're not good at something, then hopefully you can help someone out, and they can help you out. But yeah, everyone's definitely very supportive once you get into your first year, which is awesome. All right, well, why don't we move on? Our next question will be for you, Janet. The question is, what application materials are required?
Well, luckily this is a pretty short list, but it's a very for sure list. You need the VMCAS application, you need the Colorado application, and you need 3 PPI evaluations. Earlier I was suggesting to go ahead and find out who your evaluators would be so that you have enough time, or they have enough time to get that written and submitted and turned in by the application deadline. But those are the 3 things you need. And also, I guess I should mention the Colorado application. You need to have GRE scores to enter into the Colorado application so it can submit. So those are our requirements.
Perfect. Thank you, Janet. Our next question will be for you, Webb. What advice do you have as a professor for students to be successful in veterinary school?
I guess I'd just, and this word has been used a number of times, come to vet school with passion would be maybe my fundamental piece of advice. And then take advantage of what vet school is. So as opposed to being passive and sitting back like a sponge expecting the knowledge to be given to you, come with the attitude that you're gonna take it and you're gonna grab hold of it, and every opportunity, there's just so many opportunities to learn. Yeah, one is sitting in a lecture listening to somebody talk, but that's just scratching the surface. And so come ready to just grab everything you can and take full advantage of a very unique and wonderful 4 years here in vet school. Soak it up and go out and get it for yourself, and that'd be my advice. That'd be the way I'd approach vet school.
Thank you, Webb. Yeah, I definitely agree. There's so many ways to get involved and to be a part of vet school. So definitely do what you can while you're here. Our next question is a student question. So Ed, why don't you take the lead on this? The question is, what was the most helpful class you took in undergrad that you think really helped you in vet school?
I would probably say, I want to say physiology. Again, that's another big course in your first semester here in vet school. Um, we go over a lot of systems and a lot of topics that since I had some really good teachers in undergrad that really helped me understand the material, and it's kind of like a refresher when it came to the vet school version of the physiology course. And so I know still, like, in some of the test questions for physiology, I only remember the answer because of that course in undergrad. Um, so honestly, it just depends, but I think for me that class was the most helpful.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I definitely agree. Physiology helped me a lot. I think actually Ed and I had the same teacher. Did we, Ed? Because you went to undergrad here as well, right?
No, I actually didn't. I went to University of California in San Diego.
Okay. Oops. But I do agree. Physiology, definitely having that class helped me a lot, and I referred to my undergrad notes as well a lot. So that I really thought having immunology helped because I feel like immunology is such a big part of what goes on in diseases and inflammatory responses and all that. You always hear about type 4 hypersensitivity. Ah, and that's Ed knows what I'm talking about. But anyways, so I definitely think immunology helped, and I think it would have benefited me if I had taken anatomy in undergrad, because I didn't take anatomy, and so I was kind of on the struggle bus in that class.
Yeah, I like to add, I did take a graduate course level physiology here at CSU though. So I think I had some of the same professors as in vet school. So that helped again. But again, like most of the classes, actually, oh no, all of the classes have really good professors. And your first year, you take all of your like foundation classes. Classes that will set you up for the rest of your 3 years. So, and then they do prepare you and teach you really well in your first year. So don't feel like you need to have such a leg up in undergrad because they'll prepare you excellently here during your first year.
Well put, Ed. Well put. The faculty does an amazing job preparing you for your clinic years. So there's definitely nothing to fret there. I think if you get your prerequisites done, then you will be adequately prepped for vet school. The next question will be for Janet. Can I submit the Colorado application before/after the VMCAS application?
The answer is yes, you can. Being that they are two separate applications, they're hosted by different entities, and so therefore have a completely different submit process. So you can submit the Colorado application before or after the VMCAS application. And I'd like to also add that you can also submit the PPI report independent of the VMCAS application or the Colorado application.
Thanks, Janet. Our next question was tweeted in, and this will be for me and Ed as students. For undergrad years, what is the best way to manage your school versus experience hours?
School versus work, you said?
Yeah, work hours or vet experience hours.
Sorry, our room is having some technical difficulties, so The lights went down. But well, for me, I had a late start with getting my veterinary hours, so I knew I needed to do more. But since I took a lot of summer courses in my earlier years in undergrad, that gave me a leg up in terms of the classes I needed to take after that in third and fourth year in undergrad. So I was able to take the bare minimum of classes while working a lot, like 20 to 30 hours in a week. And so luckily that gave me enough hours to get into CSU. Yeah, so it's doable. It just depends on how much more experience you think you need and how much time you think you need for your classes to do well in them.
Yeah, that's very well put, Ed. I don't think I have too much to add to that. I do think it is based on the person and kind of if you're lagging in the experience hours or in your classes, but I mean, I think it's just try your best in either one and make sure you get your coursework done and if the hours that you only put in the hours that you can without, I mean, in undergrad too, you have to make sure that you have your work-life balance as well. So don't sell anything short just because you're trying to get into veterinary school, I guess. I think Webb liked that response. I see him smiling. Oh, Webb, speaking of which, we have a question for you. Are students matched with advisors or professors based on similar research interests, or how does the pairing work for working with a professor?
Right, we have in the past, and I think we are reinstating a program where we try to get incoming students at least together with some upperclassmen in the vet program, and that's a great source for some direction with that kind of question. But it kind of goes back to what I would suggest, just like with trying to get a job at a clinic or going to classes, that you as a student kind of take the lead. You decide what you're passionate about, find the faculty member that most matches you, and then get into their office and have a conversation. Don't wait for them to find you. You go out and find them. Our faculty love being here. We love working with students. So we're all very receptive to having our door knocked on and seeing an enthusiastic face come on in and say, hey, do you got something I can help out with? Is there a niche for me in your lab? What can I do to be a part of this? And that's both very impressive and very welcome here by the staff at CSU.
Thank you, Ed. We have a GChat comment question. So live question. So this is for us students. So Ed, why don't you start with this? How does the process of becoming a vet work? Do you start with undergrad school and then apply for vet school?
Yeah, in most cases, most people go through around 4 years of undergraduate work, get a bachelor's in whichever major you like best, as long as you get your prereqs done. And then try for vet school, try applying for vet school. The earliest you can do is, the earliest you could do is like the start of your senior year. But it depends if you graduate undergrad in 3 years or 5 or 6. So it just depends. And then a lot of other people also go into some sort of master's program. And that also helps strengthen your application, I feel, and because it's a higher, what's the word I'm looking for?
Education?
Yeah, higher level of education. There you go. Higher level of education in graduate school, and so that can also help you prep for that transition to vet school. And then other people also take some years off and go get some work experience as an animal technician, and then come back and try applying for vet school. So it's very flexible. Most of the classes here at CSU have a very large range of ages of students. So it's just completely up to you where you are in life and what you think is more important. Yeah.
Very well put, Ed. I do think, yeah, it's just if you get your prerequisites done, it doesn't matter where you are in life. Apply and see what happens, I suppose. I do know, and Janet might know more about this, I believe there are also programs called Vet Prep and Vet Start. Janet, do you know about those?
Yes, those are two programs we have, and they are primarily for disadvantaged students. Vet Start is geared more towards high school students, and the Vet Prep is more at the applying for the veterinary program time. You don't apply directly to that program. What we do is we review the disadvantage essays for the alternate and denied applicants, and we review them to see if they would be a good fit for the Vet Prep program. And we select up to 10 people for that program each year.
All right, thank you, Janet. I did not know that. I just remember hearing about those programs.
Yeah, I was in the Vet Prep program, so yeah, it's a great program.
All right, thank you, Ed. Janet, we got another one for you. This is from an international student. Can we apply for admission to your vet school from Pakistan? And I'd assume any other international country.
Yes, you can. We welcome international students. They apply as non-sponsored students. There aren't really any differences other than transcripts. We do ask that students attending international schools have their transcripts evaluated by an evaluation service so that it can be equated to the American education system so that we can compare credits to credits on an equal basis. But we welcome international students, and that is really the only difference is the transcript.
Thank you, Janet. I know we have a few international students in our class. I know we have Annika. She is from Germany, and she's known as the German friend in our class. So, and I think you guys have a few too, don't you?
Yeah, we have one student from China, and yeah, I think we only have him. So.
All right, thanks, guys. Oh, this would be a good one for Webb. So this question. What kind of cutting-edge technology does the veterinary hospital have that students get to use or play with would be my guess.
Sure. The CSU Veterinary Teaching Hospital is one of the best equipped in the entire world. We're one of maybe only 3 veterinary hospitals that has a PET CT scan. We're doing, in fact, Becca herself is doing research in stem cell therapy, which is at the cutting edge in a number of different conditions and diseases. We're one of the first vet hospitals using or working in canine rehabilitation, where we'll have physical therapists come in and work with both mostly dogs, not so much cats. Our equine program is world-renowned. We're one of the only places where your dog can have its open heart surgery and have a valve replaced. So yeah, the Veterinary Teaching Hospital here at CSU is world-renowned and leads the world in that kind of technology. Veterinary students, even if they aren't the ones putting their fingers on the heart of the dog, certainly benefit from the fact that that kind of work is being done right here in their veterinary hospital.
Oh yeah, we definitely have professors come in and talk to our class that just got done with surgery, some cutting-edge surgery or some cutting-edge something that morning, come in and are giving a lecture, and they're like, oh, this is also what I did this morning. We're all like, oh, that's fancy. It was definitely...
Yeah, in some wet labs, you get to use some really fancy, cool equipment. One time I was using an endoscopy scope to look inside the belly of a pig, and then they were like, yeah, be careful, that whole set costs like $300,000. Don't drop it. So, yeah.
I know Webb is a big fan of endoscopy as well. That's his like key instrument of tool of use. Some fancy stuff. So we get to work with all the fancy things. Our next question was actually just written in from GChat. There's a comment. and Janet, I think this would be for you. What are you looking for in a student that would be applying to your college?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, I think. We are looking for somebody who, in their application, can present evidence that they can handle a rigorous upper division biomedical sciences curriculum, because the veterinary program will be 4 years of that. So they want to be sure that your academics are strong, you could have a strong credit load, and you've done well with that. Another thing they really want to know is what you know about the veterinary profession. What can you bring to the profession? What do you think you'll get out of it? And again, just how much do you know, and what is this really what you want? Will it be a good fit?
Thank you, Janet. Our next question will be a student question for me and Edward. This was actually another GChat question. And Ed, why don't you start off with this? How much of your class is 30, and how many are male? So I assume demographics-wise. 30 years old, I think. So
okay.
Demographics of each class.
Okay, so each class is about 138 students. I think there are maybe like 10 or 20 people over the age of 30. In my class, I'm one of 20 guys, and the rest are all women. I don't know if that's the same statistics as Becca's class, so I'll let her take that over.
Yep, I'm like one of 120 women. We definitely have, I think it's 20% male, 80% female. It's definitely a large switch. I know, I don't know, like at least 20 years ago or so, it was complete opposite, primarily male profession. And I know we have, our age ranges from 19 years old, I think from our first year, so at least 20 years old now, to 40 years old. So we have plenty of, like, a wide range of students, and also a ton of what are called alternative students, I think, and like people who have done PhDs or masters, or who basically did not come directly from undergrad to vet school. So definitely a wide range of people. You will first certainly find a friend that is similar to you, pretty much. But yeah, we definitely have a wide array of people in each class, which is really awesome. So you find out, I know we have like a bodybuilder and a pilot in our class too. So it's pretty cool, all the different kind of people you get to meet. Let's see. This one might be best answered by Webb, since he's more on the clinic floor. What kind of exotic veterinary medicine does your school offer?
Yeah, we have a separate exotic service, and they'll do everything from pocket pets to pot-bellied pigs to all various birds and critters that I can't begin to name, squirrels that fly through the front door. They also reach out and work with the Raptor Center, so wild birds and rescued birds. They'll work with the Denver Zoo and the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. We've had wild animals brought to our facility. We've had lions that we've CT'd, and tigers whose teeth need to be worked on, and we've had a bear here, and we have Dr. Duncan that Becca mentioned is a specialist in marine biology. So very active exotics service that works with, again, most any kind of animal in most any kind of situation that you can imagine.
Thanks, Webb. I'd just like to let everyone know we have 2 more questions left. This was another GChat comment question. Don't really know who would be able to answer this. Maybe Webb again. I might be able to answer a little bit, but what are your large animal facilities like?
So, fantastic. We have a large animal section associated with the main hospital. We have a separate orthopedic research center with Dr. McElraith close to the vet hospital. we have this huge truck that travels to all of the racetracks working with these $1 million racehorses. And in fact, we're in the middle of getting the donations that are going to allow us to build a huge new modern equine hospital separate from the main hospital as well. So the facilities here are second to none in the world. Yep, and so we've got anything that you could be looking for.
Thanks, Webb. Yeah, I got some experience over at I took the foaling management class. It was one of those extra classes you could take in your spring of second year. And we got to do a lot of stuff over at the equine reproductive lab, which was really cool, getting to see all that and getting to see little foals be born. And it's just the facilities are amazing. And they're actually, I think it was the ERL that was recently rebuilt a few years ago. So huge and awesome, and I mean, it's not just, we don't just do small animal here, we do just about everything, like what Webb has mentioned. And finally, this is our last question, and this will be answered by everyone. So why don't we start with you, Ed? But why should I choose to go apply to CSU over other universities?
For me, I think it's really important to look at the environment that the vet school is in, and Fort Collins is honestly such an awesome well, now it's considered a city. For me, like, that was important because I knew that was going to help me stay sane in terms of dealing with the stress and workload and the course load here, and so that was a big factor for me, and I think that's why CSU is the best vet school in America.
Thanks, Ed. What about you, Janet? Why should people choose CSU over any other university?
I think this would be a great place to go to vet school because I think the faculty are very supportive of the students. I think they try to be very helpful even after hours. I've heard that they're very helpful in helping the students study for the big NAVLE test. I also think the students as a group and within their classes and actually between the classes too are very supportive of each other. I also think the clubs here are very active and offer a lot of experiences to people. Probably to those, like if you don't have experience with a certain species, I think you could get that here in our clubs here. They're just very active.
Thanks, Janet. And what about you, Webb?
You'd want to come here because the people who come here are here because they love what they're doing, and that includes the people that will be teaching you as veterinary students. They're here because they love to teach, they love being veterinarians, they love being a part of this wonderful place that is the CSU Veterinary Teaching Hospital, and that comes across throughout your years here as vet students. The people are here, again, they love what they're doing, and teaching veterinary students is a huge part of that, and you can't help but feel that here as a vet student, and that's not necessarily true at other places that you might be looking at. The CSU, we're a great place, and we love being here and love working with the kids who come on here to be vet students.
Thank you, Ed. Just what I have to add is, if it's not for the town, I'd say it's for the school itself, for the faculty as well. Our school is well equipped, it's amazing, and the faculty are not only so passionate about veterinary medicine, but they're passionate about the students succeeding in veterinary medicine, which I think is amazing. And they not only care about how you're doing in school, but they care about how you're doing, I guess, in life as well. I know there's faculty that go on horseback rides with their students, they go on runs, I mean, if they think that you're struggling in a class, they will approach you not in a demeaning manner, but just out of pure concern and wanting to make sure that you do your best and that they can help you in any way to succeed. I know our neuro teacher, Dr. Whalen, goes far and beyond out of his way to make sure that neurology is one of the top neurology courses at the veterinary hospital, in any veterinary hospital across the nation. He spends hours and hours on his neurology programs, on the anatomy programs, and also with the students, taking you out to see real cases, real neuro cases. But I just say the faculty here are amazing, and it's been awesome getting to work with them. Did anyone else have anything to add before we kind of wrap things up? All right.
Go Rams.
What?
Go Rams!
Go Rams! Woo! DSU kind of rocks. No big deal. But if we did not get to your questions tonight, we will do our best to answer them over the next couple days, primarily via email. And I thank you again, everyone, for watching tonight at the RAM chat. Again, any questions we didn't get to, we'll hopefully be able to follow up. And if you'd like to watch this hangout again, you can find it on the Colorado State University YouTube page. So if there's any questions you want to re-listen to, feel free to head to our YouTube page to rewatch that section. But yeah, thanks again, everyone, and I hope everyone has a good night. Bye.